Okay, and who do we have the pleasure of talking with right now?
Hi, I'm Karissa. I live in King County.
Well, Carissa, as you know, we're dealing with a very, let's just say, anxiety, stressful kind of election process. And I'm just wondering, how have you been affected? Let's just say, like in the last, I don't know, the last month by what's been going on with the election.
Definitely a lot of anxiety, which I've been really focusing on what can I do to impact the results I want to see and focusing on how to best strategize doing that. So I've been phone banking a lot, following up with friends, text messages, phone calls. Like, you did vote, right? Did you track your vote? Like, are you sure that it was received and accepted? Do you know the rules? Do you have time to phone bank? Just making sure everyone knows the resources and what they can do to ensure that their votes count and that their voice is heard.
So you're kind of like channeling that energy and that anxiety in kind of a meaningful direction, so to speak.
Yeah, because if we get to election day and it starts going south and I didn't do it, I know that it's it's going to eat me alive. I know it did in 2016, so I definitely don't want to have those same feelings of not doing enough. Although I was active duty at the time in 2016, so I was more limited on what I could do. But now that I'm not, I'm very hands-on this election cycle.
So has the election cycle like produced any like recognizable like physical, mental, emotional changes in yourself?
Yeah, I'm pretty anxious all the time. I kind of wake up. I do watch the news a lot because that's kind of like, if it's a quiet day, I know that it's not so bad. I know news can cause anxiety, but sometimes it reduces it, and just gives me kind of like a world view of what's actually happening. But also I do try to diversify my time in reading, or like a really good show. It's got to be really good though, because if I get too distracted, I'll end up on my phone and doom scroll.
Got it. So now on Tuesday, because we'll be in the thick of it on Tuesday, and then we get to wait probably 3 or 4 more days, maybe, till we even get the results. How do you think you're going to be feeling, and what are you going to do about it in terms of keeping a lid on all the anxiety?
Yes, I think meditation is going to be on there. um, Definitely during the day while everyone's voting, I think it's going to be hard not to watch the news. But I don't think it's very helpful to watch the news earlier in the day just because nobody knows anything at that point because polls are still open. We don't really know. But towards the evening, I'll definitely be watching. But no coffee, that's for sure. Nothing with caffeine, nothing to amplify my anxieties. But I'm definitely going to try and keep my regular routine of waking up, having coffee, doing yoga, just kind of centering myself in that it's not going to be an immediate pandemonium situation, which is what it feels like.
So, what suggestions would you give to somebody else who's maybe not quite handling it as well as you are, and they call you up and go, "Carissa, I'm ready to lose my mind."
Yes. So, what I like to do is look at the odds, go to some political advisors like social medias and see what they're saying. I really like looking at the maps where they play with the electoral vote options because I have pretty bad anxiety. And so my mind just ruminates on what possible options there are. So watching them play with the map outcomes, like for some reason, really centers me. But also just unplugging and reading a book really helps, like a really good story that just completely takes your mind out of politics, because I've been doing a lot of anti-racism reading, and I've noticed that that really amplifies my anxieties if I'm listening to politics and then also reading that. So I've had to really kind of make a concerted effort to focus my energies on completely non-political content sometimes.
Well, last question is, for future elections, what would you like to see? I mean, when we're in the next big cycle, what differences would you like to see that I guess will be more meaningful, but also a lot less stressful for people?
Yes, I do think that this is gonna trigger a lot less apathy with voting. I know prior to 2016, my whole generation didn't really concern themselves with elections or voting because everything was going normal. It was peaceful and quiet, and you knew that our administrations were doing what they were supposed to. And that apathy, I think, has kind of led us to where we are now. And I don't think that we're going to see as many apathetic voters as we previously did. So that's really hopeful. But in the next 4 years, we have to have major election reform, like with beyond a shadow of a doubt. Rank stack voting would be amazing to see, especially in the primaries. We need more third parties because our current parties don't represent most Americans. It's very divisive because a lot of people are not represented. So I think the next 4 years needs to be a lot of election reform to prevent things like what we're seeing now happening, like all the voter suppression. Their mail-in voting needs to be more standardized. There will be more pandemics and other things that prevent voting. So I think that needs to be standardized and set nationwide. So a lot of reform is needed. But I'm really hopeful for the 2024 election to go much more smoothly.
And you mentioned your generation. So just how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I'm 32, so I'm pretty middle of the road millennial, and I'm pretty well tapped into Gen Zs as well. I work with them a lot. So their mindsets, we all grew up with mass shooter drills and then mass shootings continuing to happen and all of these kids still dying around them and nobody cares. And I think that's really fueled a lot of political activity in that generation and ours. I think it's kind of cool. I think Gen Z and millennials are a lot more close-knit than other generations previously are. And I think that's creating an environment of like political togetherness, that we all want to see common goals and children not being killed in school. So I think that's created a big influx of early voters that have not previously voted before.
Okay, well, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.